finally, what we have on this slide is, I think, um, a contrast that sort of gets to some of what and collaborators were talking about in their article about sense making versus positivism. On the right, you see the same top level of the ACM classification that I showed on the previous slide. On the left, you see a tag cloud. I can't remember exactly where I got this tag cloud, but if you're not familiar with Web 2.0 environments, a tag cloud is created when there's a web resource like a blog or Flickr photos or something like that, where there's a set of information resources in one environment, like the individual post in a blog, and people, whether it's the creators of the information content or it's people who visit the site, can tag with their own self-generated keywords, uncontrolled vocabulary, can just type in words that they think somehow describe the content of that information resource. So a tag cloud, for instance, if you have a blog that has 50 or 60 posts in it, and each of those 50 or 60 posts is tagged with 2 or 3 different tags or keywords that describe what the post is about, then that entire blog of 50 or 60 posts would have a tag cloud that is a list of every single tag that occurs in the blog, and then the tag is made larger or smaller based on how frequently that tag appears throughout all of the posts in the blog. Since tags can be collaborative, in some environments anyone can put a tag on an information resources, whereas in other environments only people with specific kinds of access can tag resources. But it is meant to be sort of like very user oriented and very bottom up kind of cataloging. You don't have one authority or one professional who is given, ultimate authority to decide what this is about, and they have to have years of training in library school, and they must know the principles of thesaurus construction and controlled vocabulary. Like, none of those rules apply in the world of tagging. Tagging is also known as folksonomy, and it's the idea that cataloging can be democratic. So in this sense, tagging is a lot like sense making, because the tags that get applied probably depend on the situation in which the information is being published and the type of information that it is and the type of people who are using and reading and sharing that information. So that's a very sense making view of the world and a relativistic way of coming up with a vocabulary for describing a collection of information resources. And then on the right, you have the fixed ontology that was described as being from the positivistic paradigm that says that there is a limited number of fixed categories, that any information that's going to be published in this digital library will belong to one or more of these categories or their subcategories, and that's the way it is, and there's no changing it, and there's no democracy, but it's more effective because maybe there's an agreed upon vocabulary that everybody's using. So those are 2 examples of classification tasks that can be done according to the 2 paradigms that we've talked about in our discussion today. So that concludes the lecture for session 3 about psychology and philosophy as invisible substrates of library and information studies. So next week we're going to get into ISARs. ISARs are information storage and retrieval systems, and we're going to look at several different aspects of ISARs. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and take a look at the reading guidelines for session 4 that are in the discussion boards on Blackboard, and familiarize yourself with the readings. I especially recommend you give a close reading to the Bates article. There will be a practical assignment based on the Bates article, and it's one of those sort of foundational pieces that we will refer to again and again throughout the semester. So we'll talk about it a good bit during the lecture portion of the class, but it's also a good idea to familiarize yourself with it. The reading guidelines will also tell you for the more technical aspects of the information of the ISAR's evaluation articles. The reading guidelines will tell you what you can ignore, so you might want to take a look at that. You don't need to overburden yourself by understanding every single algorithm and equation that comes up in those readings. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you on the message boards. And please feel free to call, text, or email me questions.